We're reading from Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung in this section entitled The Analysis of Dreams, where synchronicity is going to be mentioned here on page 55. Before I give you the cash register synchronicities CRS from yesterday. Where were we? There are numerous well-authenticated stories of clocks stopping at the moment of their owner's death. One was the pendulum clock. A little chilly. In the palace of Frederick the Great at Sansui, S-O-U-C-I, which stopped when the emperor died. Share these images with you here. Top of page, a famous example of the common dream of growing larger. A drawing from Alice in Wonderland, 1877, shows Alice growing to fill a house. Center, the equally common dream of flying in a drawing by the 19th century British artist William Blake entitled, Oh How I Dreamt of Things Impossible. And over here, inanimate objects sometimes seem to act symbolically. Left, the clock of Frederick the Great, which stopped when its owner died in 1786. That's right, there's the clock. Symbols are produced simultaneously from the unconscious, though they may later be consciously elaborated. Right, the Ankh, symbol of life. Right, the Ankh, ancient Egypt's symbol of life, the universe, and man. By contrast, the airways insignia far right are consciously contrived signs, not symbols. Symbol, sign. Consciously contrived, not consciously contrived. I wear one of those. Ankh. There's your symbol of man, the universe, life. There's the 1, there's the 0, the male and the female, 1 and 0. The spine, your head, the horizon plane, the horizontal axis, the vertical axis, crisscross. Christ's cross. Yep. Our other common examples are those of a mirror that breaks, or a picture that falls when a death occurs. Minor but unexplained breakages in a house where someone is passing through an emotional crisis. Even if skeptics refuse to credit such reports, stories of this kind are always cropping up, and this alone should serve as ample proof of their psychological importance. Oh well, my steering wheel's at a weird angle. The wearing steel. There are many symbols, however, among them the most important, that are not individual but collective in their nature and origin. This is annoying me. There we go. There are many symbols, however, among them the most important, that are not individual but collective in their nature and origin. These are chiefly religious images. The believer assumes that they are of divine origin, that they have been revealed to man. The skeptic says flatly that they have been invented. Both are wrong. It is true, as the skeptic notes, that religious symbols and concepts have for centuries been the object of careful and quite conscious elaboration. It is equally true, as the believer implies, that their origin is so far buried in the mystery of the past that they seem to have no human source. But they are, in fact, quote-unquote, collective representations. emanating from primeval dreams and creative fantasies. As such, these images are involuntary, spontaneous manifestations and by no means intentional inventions. This fact, as I shall later explain, has a direct and important bearing upon the interpretation of dreams. It is obvious that if you assume the dream to be symbolic, you will interpret it differently from a person who believes that the essential energizing thought or emotion is known already and is merely disguised, in quotes, by the dream. In the latter case, dream interpretation makes little sense. For you find only what you already know. It is for this reason that I have always said to my pupils, quote, learn as much as you can about symbolism, then forget it all when you are analyzing a dream. This advice is of such practical importance that I have made it as a rule to remind myself that I can never understand somebody else's dream well enough to interpret it correctly. I have done this in order to check the flow of my own conscious associations and reactions, which might otherwise prevail over my patient's uncertainties and hesitations. As it is of the greatest therapeutic importance for an analyst to get the particular message of a dream, that is, the contribution that the unconscious is making to the conscious mind, as accurately as possible, it is essential for him to explore the content of a dream with the utmost thoroughness. I had a dream when I was working with Freud that illustrates this point. Remember, Jung was Freud's understudy. I dreamed that I was in my home, quote unquote, apparently on the first floor, in a cozy, pleasant sitting room furnished in the manner of the 18th century. I was astonished that I had never seen this room before, and began to wonder what the ground floor was like. I went downstairs and found the place was rather dark, with paneled walls and heavy furniture dating from the 16th century or even earlier. My surprise and curiosity increased. I wanted to see more of the whole structure of this house, so I went down to the cellar, where I found a door opening onto a flight of stone steps that led to a large vaulted room. The floor consisted of large slabs of stone, and the walls seemed very ancient. I examined the mortar and found it was mixed with splinters of brick. Obviously, the walls were of Roman origin. I became increasingly excited. In one corner I saw an iron ring on a stone slab. I pulled up the slab and saw yet another narrow flight of steps leading to a kind of cave, which seemed to be a prehistoric tomb containing 2 skulls, some bones, and broken shards of pottery. Then I woke up. If Freud, when he analyzed this dream, had followed my method of exploring its specific associations and content, he would have heard a far-reaching story. But I am afraid he would have dismissed it as a mere effort to escape from a problem that was really his own. The dream is in fact a short summary of my life, more specifically of the development of my mind. I grew up in a 200-year-old house. Our furniture consisted mostly of pieces about 300 years old, and mentally my hitherto greatest spiritual adventure had been to study the philosophies of Kant and Schopenhauer. The great news of the day was the work of Charles Darwin. Shortly before this, I had been living with the still medieval concepts of my parents, for whom the world and men were still presided over by divine omnipotence and providence. This world had become antiquated and obsolete. My Christian faith had become relative through its encounter with Eastern religions and Greek philosophy. It is for this reason that the ground floor was so still, dark, and obviously uninhabited. My then historical interests had developed from an original preoccupation with comparative anatomy and paleontology while I was working as an assistant at the Anatomical Institute. I was fascinated by the bones of fossil man, particularly by the much-discussed Neanderthal, and the still more controversial skull of Dubois' Pithecanthropus. Anthropo is man. Anthropology. As a matter of fact, these were my real associations to the dream. but I did not dare to mention the subject of skulls, skeletons, or corpses to Freud because I had learned that this theme was not popular with him. He cherished the peculiar idea that I anticipated his early death, and he drew this conclusion from the fact that I had shown much interest in the mummified corpses in the so-called Bleikeller in Bremen, which we visited together in 1909 on our way to take the boat to America. Thus I felt reluctant to come out with my own thoughts, since through recent experience I was deeply impressed by the almost unbridgeable gap between Freud's mental outlook and background and my own. I was afraid of losing his friendship if I should open up to him about my own inner world, which I surmised would look very queer to him. Feeling quite uncertain about my own psychology, I almost automatically told him a lie about my quote-unquote free associations in order to escape the impossible task of enlightening him about my very personal and utterly different constitution. I must apologize for this rather lengthy narration of the jam I got into through telling Freud my dream, but it is a good example of the difficulties in which one gets involved in the course of a real dream analysis. So much depends upon the personal differences between the analyst and the analyzed. I soon realized that Freud was looking for some incompatible wish of mine, and so I suggested tentatively that the skills I had dreamed of might refer to certain members of my family whose death for some reason I might desire. This proposal met with his approval, but I was not satisfied with such a phony solution. Here's the pictures of Jung on here. Right, Jung's mother and father. Jung's interest in ancient religion and mythology drew him away from the religious world of his parents. His father was a pastor, as shown by the dream discussed on this page that he had while working with Freud. Far right, Jung at Bergelsee, where he worked in 1900 as a psychiatrist in a mental hospital. Let's start doing yesterday's cash register synchronicities here. Jung coined the term synchronicity, meaningful coincidence, acausal connections. There's the notes I left at base 6 o'clock, right ascension, Ra. Easter, rising, the sun and right rising from the east, right ascension, east to west. Ishtar, April, Easter. Easter is Ishtar. That's where you get the bunnies and the eggs. Aphrodite. This one here, 2:08 p.m., 1400 hours, 0846. Here on 11/12. So this is cool. I didn't even notice this part. 208, invoice number 8022, 208. The total was 101.29, and the customer got 29 items. 2 plus 9, L11, 101, L even. $6.11. This one, it was really 610. They rounded it off. The system rounded it off down here. But up here you can see the 18:10, 59 seconds. So it was the last second of the 10th minute of 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., 6:10, right? Look what the total originally was, 10:06, 6:10. That was the time, 6:10, total 10:06. $5.19, customers total. All right, so 17th hour, 19th minute, 29th second, total was 35.49, 19:29.49. L even items. Oh, and then the invoice number, 4939. Invoice number 3549, invoice 4939. 171929. I mean, jeez. All right, I'm going to have to do another one, part 5 today, so because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more of these. Hare Krishna.